Okay, let's get started, and then I'll talk and other people will talk. So today, welcome back. First off, as I said already, you've spent yesterday figuring out your problem statement, focusing on the issue that you're going to solve and how you're going to solve it. So today you're going to start working on developing your actual solution. This is the fun part. Well, I think the problem statement is the fun part personally, but this is the part where you actually get to start to create something new. In your team folder toolkit that's linked in a Google Drive in your channel, and I will also drop these PDFs into the general channel, you have a business model canvas and a value map summary. So these are going to help you, kind of similar to what the cheat sheet that Fiona shared yesterday, start to bring together who are your users, what are the tasks that they need to do, and what are the things that you can implement or that you can offer to help make those tasks easier, to make them actually work. What is it that you need to be that line between where they want to be and where they want to get to? And then on top of that, because you are pitching a startup essentially, or an idea for a business, how are you going to then monetize that line right there that Fiona talked about? So within the business model canvas, I will share it right now so you can all see it. So within the business model canvas there, you have who are your customers, what is it that they want, what is it that they're trying to do, and then what are the resources that you're going to provide them. Between those places, that resource and what they want, is where your profit lies. So what is going to be your revenue? Where is that going to come from? Are you going to take a commission? Are you going to have a subscription service? Thinking about how you're going to monetize that line again that Fiona talked about. Where are you going to find these people? Why is it that they should come to you? Kind of, again, Fiona's cheat sheet. So glad she shared, or that Paul and she shared that yesterday. She talked about that triangle. So this is, again, where that where you're going to start to bring together the aspects of that triangle to show this is how I've made all of these three things as strong as I possibly can. You also have, one second. You also have, let me see if I can get it to pull up. This, your value map summary. So this goes directly from that canvas that you had yesterday of what were your consumers' pains and what were the things that they want. So you can fill this out as well. It's a little bit more guided way to find the same information that you have in the business canvas, the business model canvas. If you have other templates of these that you prefer, there are so many different options out there. Feel free to use whichever ones you like. These are the really basic ones. There are other ones for two-sided platforms, for three-sided platforms, for marketplaces, for circular economies, there are so many versions. There are tons and tons of templates for them in your Miro. If you search any sort of value map or business model, it will bring you up a lot of different options. If you have questions, if you want to ask questions about any of them, feel free to let me know. Come back on. And Sorcha's already here. And as always, I talked faster than I meant to. So I'm going to make Sorcha a co-host so she can share things. Perfect. And then I'm going to pass it over to Sorcha, who is here to, share with us her experiences about working in blockchain and food. And I'm going to let her explain it because she'll do a better job than I will, always. And so I'll hand it over to Sorcha. Thanks, Sorcha, and welcome.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, and Sophie, and for all of the What the Hack team. And just having a look at that document that Caitlin was sharing is like so much detail goes into these hackathons. So fair play to you. You've got a day job during the week as well as putting this together. And it's fantastic to have so many people here over the weekend as well, dedicating to the food supply and to technology. So bravo, everybody. Greetings to rural Ireland. So you might see in the background here that we're in a very old little village, and we're actually in our social enterprise at the moment, which has just transitioned from a pub in rural Ireland, which are in big trouble at the moment, into a social enterprise for local producers and organic farmers. And part of that story is my background in blockchain and fintech and financial services. So rather than going through the technology side, as I'm sure that so many other people will do on this, I'm really going to focus in on the actual people and produce side, and that real disconnect that exists in society between food production and supply chain. So bear with me. So briefly, my background is working with corporate, commercial and treasury banking in London for over a decade. So things have moved on significantly for me since 2016 in particular. When I came back to Ireland, I moved away from traditional banking, not feeling too connected to working in financial services, and wanted to see what could be done to change how people access finance, and in particular small medium businesses. Accessing lending since the last recession was a real challenge for small medium businesses, and I had been working in the field trying to address the financial gap that existed because of the previous recession. And what I began to recognize when I was working with small medium businesses in every sector across every part of Ireland and indeed the UK was that there wasn't just a funding gap that fintechs were addressing, but there was also a real digital divide. And that started to make me think, okay, well, what is this going to look like in 5 years' time? My curiosity for blockchain also began in 2016 when I was focusing on the infrastructure rather than the crypto side at that time. That came much later, and there's so many fantastic use cases which I'm sure you're looking into today in terms of CBDC and digital assets and tokenization. But I've seen small medium businesses jumping through hoops to win and remain to win contracts and remain on the procurement panel as a supplier to multinationals. In Ireland, we have thousands of multinational corporations and as well as financial institutions, and thousands of small medium businesses and even micro businesses as just our suppliers to those organizations. And the larger organizations, of course, have much more richer budgets. So they can afford expensive and productive software that small, medium businesses just can't access at the moment. So I became aware in, say, 2017 that the majority of the large Standard & Poor's 500, Fortune 500 multinationals were participating in blockchain consortiums, mostly within track, trace, provenance, and transparency. And this continued to accelerate while I was working in funding small, medium businesses. I decided in 2019 that I would found the SME chain, which is my consultancy, so I could look at finding partners who were solving this problem and really change the language of how technology is spoken to and positioned with small medium businesses, because it can be really daunting. But some of the figures that I found early in my research was, according to the March 2019 European Investment Bank digitalization of Irish SMEs report with the European Commission, only 31% of SMEs had a CRM system, a customer relationship management system. Only 28% had an ERP, an enterprise resource management software, and only 12% had a supply chain management software. So if you think, if any of you are working in enterprise, or indeed if you're a startup, probably one of the first things that you do is invest in a SaaS software, so that you can plug or extract APIs to get information or to give information to some of your suppliers, or even to access finance. And, you know, the majority of our SMEs do not have access to do that. Therefore, they're organically excluded from a lot of the financial technology that is being built today. They won't be able to participate in that in its current format. So the majority of multinationals, if not all now, due to COVID, will demand that even their smallest suppliers have invested in one or a hybrid of these systems, so that they can check the provenance, that they can check have they adhered to COVID standards. I mean, even for our own business here, because we are open to consumers, we have to do 15 hours so far of COVID training for different authorities. And in fact, we have a 6.5 hour COVID training session for the next 6 weeks, for just to be able to serve food and not even cook it on our premises. So you think about how that will impact the smallest of SMEs, and particular farmers. So the cost of an ERP system or an SCM is over 10% of the revenue of a small business, and that's if they are turning over $1 million per year. So it's about 100K investment, and it takes over 3 years to actually implement it into the business. Then you've got to add on extra labor costs and outsourcing, and of course it's going to be the most senior people in the business, like your finance or your accountant, that are embedding the system within the organization. So it's a huge cost, it's unsustainable, and it's unachievable. In addition then, due to Brexit, SMEs have been advised by professionals and government agencies over the last few years not to spend and invest in technology, though to stockpile inventory. So the divide has just been getting further apart, while in so many areas like blockchain and fintech and central bank digital currencies and asset tokenization has been getting so much further ahead. So sometimes we just need to take a step back and see, is everybody included in the party? So what does this have to do with food supply? I suppose some of you are thinking right now. Well, I mentioned that I worked in finance and fintech, then I'm also second generation of a small, medium family business in rural Ireland, which we're here now. My dad is in his late 70s, and we've been in discussion about succession planning in the last year, so he could start to work into retirement. But he's fighting fit. He really wants to stick around, so it'll be a partnership for a few more years. But this was expedited really due to COVID because he's in the high risk profile. Our business is a traditional rural Irish pub, and if any of you have been watching the news in Ireland over the past few months, there's been a lot of attention about support not sympathy campaign, because there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what government and society thinks an Irish pub is for. We might serve alcohol, but actually we're the original social enterprise. We're the original country community hub. We are in trouble at the moment because the government is just not understanding how it needs to support us. So we had to pivot so we could remain open and inclusive for our community. Our building is actually listed. It was built in 1840 as a greengrocer for the local community and farmers to meet and sell their produce. So to me, it was a natural path to choose to go back to literally the organic, natural roots of becoming a greengrocer and using this building, these four walls in a different way. So this is where the food supply really comes into it. And there's blockchain associated with this too, so bear with me. So I started researching more about not just the history of our building and our location, but also the Irish mythology, the seasonality of fruit and vegetables, the natural health benefits, not to mention the natural well-being and positive impacts of being connected to the produce, connected to the land. I was introduced to Jason Curry, who's founder of Tokenomics, And it was Dr. Jane Thomason, based in Australia, who actually introduced us both. And some of you might know Jane from so many different hackathons and so many different conferences. The woman is speaking from Australia, but alive in every single jurisdiction to discuss the benefits of democratizing not just the financial system, but the healthcare system and food as well, using blockchain and digital currencies. So if you don't know Jane, look Jane up. Also look up Jason Curry and Tokenomics, two blockchain champions for impact projects. So Jason and his co-founder Kieran of Tokenomics created a new value system for communities through social capital, digital assets, and token economic models with a mission to create positive social impacts. So the timing of our introduction back in March was unbelievable, because I was just going on this journey with transitioning our business to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive and be future fit for what we are coming into. We don't know what our future is going to be like, but technology and people will definitely be part of it. So projects that Tokenomics include are within food, healthcare, education, and finance. Another natural conversation and project to pursue for evolving the social enterprise was their ecosystem. So Eat Organic System is a community of organic farmers, chefs, businesses, and schools that connect, collaborate, and involve our food system and environment through organic farming. So I began to research how many organic farmers and producers were in my county alone, and found over 100. So knowing SMEs, and in particular micro SMEs, I thought, well, how many are invisible, have absolutely no digital presence? And the only way I'm going to find that out is through word of mouth. So I set up an Instagram account with the purpose of attracting and connecting with local organic producers. And that was at the end of June. And as soon as you start with that kind of purpose, people just gravitate naturally towards you, which is really fulfilling and inspiring at the same time, because I've learned so much in the last couple of months about the challenges that smallholder and organic farmers have in accessing funding, in understanding technology, and understanding the importance of the technology for the survival of their business, their farm, and being able to sell their produce in order to generate an income for their family to survive as well. So I found on Green Glass, which is an Irish for the green sun. It's an organic farm near Ballymore in County Westmeath, which is approximately 15 kilometres away from us here in our social enterprise. And I reached out to Kate and told her my own story about how I wanted to bring the grocery trade back into our business after hundreds of years. And needless to say, we immediately clicked and the story evolved. Kate is actually an ecologist with a deep passion for regenerative farming methods and community contribution, but had absolutely no idea about blockchain, no idea about asset tokenizations, IoT sensors, cube satellites, trace and transparency. None of this existed, but yet she had this thriving 9-acre farm. And I learned from her as well that as a 9-acre smallholder farmer, that infrastructure and funding policies in Ireland did not include her business and many thousands more, because even as the smallest producer, you have to comply with to the same standards as a 3,000-acre farmer in order to become an organic certified producer. So that means that they can't really get into the wider supply chain. They can only supply word of mouth through people they know. And technology can do so much for this in a sustainable way. So in order to get her certification, she'd essentially need a full-time employee to go through all of the documentation, all of the standardization, and make sure that she was complying to each one of them. So all of that reporting can be condensed and made so much more efficient using SaaS models or inclusive ERP or supply chain management systems, etc. So that's what I'm hoping you guys are all going to be doing this weekend, to look at the smaller producers and SMEs and not just enterprise. So I've really, really put that out there, that really think about the smaller people and producers, and not just multinationals when you're building your initiatives this weekend. So because the problems existed for small holder farmers, as I saw existing for micro and small SMEs in the supply chain and multinationals, it made me think how many more small holder farmers out there, not just in Ireland, but all across the world. And that's with ecosystem and tokenomics. Our project is not just looking at Westmeath and Dublin and Ireland. It's also, we've got partnerships in the USA with Terra Organics and Terra Sustainable Technologies. Please have a look at them and their content online if you haven't seen them already, because it ties into the impact and blockchain story. And then also FinTech TV are involved. It says FinTech TV, but trust me, there's so much more to that story as well. And Dr. Jane Thomason is a co-founder of FinTech TV. But it made me think how many more farmers out there that aren't visible digitally. What will it mean for financial inclusion for them, as well as technology inclusion, as blockchain and central bank digital currencies, digital payments and asset tokenizations evolve? Are we making the same mistake and excluding sustainable producers that are naturally contributing towards Ireland transitioning into a well-being economy that cares for its people and contributes towards achieving the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the 169 targets? So on Tuesday of this week, myself and my partner Paddy, we went to visit Kate and the On Green Glass organic farm 15 kilometres away from us. And we were blown away by the site. The dog came up to us straight away and was our little mascot for the entire taste tour around the farm, where we could and were invited to pick leaves and taste them. And any of the produce that we like, Kate would cut and we put in our baskets, and we continued along the shopping aisles of an organic farm to get produce for selling in our social enterprise down the road. And it was one of the most phenomenal experiences of my life, I have to say. And I was a diving instructor in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, and that was phenomenal enough. But this connection was something really different. So please, wherever you are in Ireland or wherever you are in the world, find an organic farm and go on a taste tour. Get to know and shake the hand of the producer that makes your food, and be more connected to that. We picked up harvested kale, spinach, tomatoes, courgettes, grapes, apples, pumpkin, butternut squash, chocolate mint, and just so much more. And we opened our doors of Fox's Bar and Grocer in Lough Valley, County Westmeath on Thursday morning of this week, so just a couple of days ago. So I'm a bit tired. We've had an awful lot of activity, so many new suppliers walking in our door, connecting with us. And because people are passing by and suddenly they see activity and that we're doing something different and that we have local produce on sale outside. And we also have Moy Coffee, Moy Fair Chain Coffee, who I think are involved this weekend as well. So thank you to Yohei in particular, who's been down on site with us for 2 days doing loads of training with us. And our community love the coffee, and they love the fair chain, fair trade story as well, because it really resonates with what's going on in our smallhold farmers here, as much as in the developing world. And Shane and Killian as well for all your support and training. So yeah, passers-by on staycation as well. Travelers were enthralled by the grocery and our cafe and connection to the land and the story of resilience of our community. So I guess the connection with technology and people and making and including people for a future-proof food supply chain is really fundamental to our health, our physical and mental well-being, and for purpose-driven business. So as I said at the beginning, I encourage you all to please consider building technology, not just for very wealthy contracts, but also to come together and collaborate to build infrastructure for Ireland's 260,000 SMEs, for Europe's 25 million, the USA 25 million odd, and all over the world 400 million SMEs. Look at the smaller micro and small SMEs. So thank you all so much for listening to my story and coming to rural Westmeath with me virtually for the morning. The sun's beginning to shine again, so I hope you're all going to have an absolutely fantastic time today. I can't wait to see how it all works out, and I'll be watching social media. So I don't know, Caitlin, if we've time for questions, or is everyone just...
If anybody wants to throw out a question, totally. I kind of spy on their chats, and so there was a lot of people saying they were worried that you'd been listening in because it was so on point to the problems that they've identified. So yes, we have people working on the good stuff. No, I really found fascinating your experience with small farmers. My family personally comes from massive American Midwestern farms.
Wow.
So instead of 9 acres, it's 90,000, something like this. So it's insane. Ali, you have a question?
I have a question about SME. How we can relate a blockchain with SME? Because as you were saying that SMEs having lower budgets, you know the thing, what I am saying, lower budgets, and they have they are producing lesser products, and they are throwing to the market lesser products. I know organic products are very less in the market.
Yeah.
And for the blockchain, it means it's a record of bulk of, you know, the things. How we can relate blockchain with SMEs?
I think,
because these are few products. Products for blockchain, it's very costly, you know the thing I am saying.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, even 2 years ago we were saying, oh, blockchain is so early in its infancy of development that it's going to be so expensive for such a long time. But actually, even a year ago, people were saying that blockchain is still irrelevant, and now look at where we are. So I think it takes time to make it affordable. But this is why I say take a look at platforms like and you know, suppliers like Moy Cafe Ireland. Like, if I take you around here, can you see Moy's brand here? Can you see it? Yeah, just there.
If not, I have one of their bags in my kitchen.
We've got their machine as well. So that's blockchain for SMEs. Because obviously the supply chain is built on blockchain technology. We have, I see Fiona Delaney's name here. We've got Origin Chain networks. There's AgriLedger, Geneviève Lavelle. Oh my God, there's so many examples, but tokenomics as well, and ecosystems. So it's people with purpose that have come together to solve problems in a way that they're not looking for money first, they're looking to problem solve. And it happens because then we go and we find the producers and we say, well, what do you need? And then we bring them into the story. And then, like, we create for tokenomics and ecosystem, we create many web pages for each of the suppliers. We're not asking for money up front for them. We're giving them visibility. And the give back is that we're contributing towards Ireland achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And not just Ireland, but every country. It's so important that we all are aware of this.
Yeah, I know that thing. Yeah, I know that thing. There will be a start from inside.
But
and you guys did a great job, you know the thing.
Your reception is a little fuzzy, Ali. I don't know if it's because the camera is on at the same time as the speaker. Maybe that might. But
Actually, my washing machine is working now. So
very practical. See, that's multitasking. You've got a life as well as a hackathon.
Yeah, you know the thing.
I'm gonna have a couple of questions in the chat that I'm gonna throw in. Maybe also, Ali, these will help to answer your question as well. And then we'll go on to Juarez after these last two. And if there are any more questions, I will ping them over to Sorcha, and she can answer whenever it's convenient for you throughout the day, and I'll pass the answers back. So one question.
Yeah, I see some coming in through the chat as well. Can I just?
Yeah, these are the ones I was just going to ask out.
Brilliant! Please go for it. Lovely.
No problem. So from Manish, is it possible to share a bit about the local pub, part A, and then part B, do you serve locally sourced products and locally grown products, and how does that chain work?
Well, this is day 3, so it's early days, but it has snowballed. I just can't tell you how much it's snowballed. It's brilliant, because once people connect on a common purpose, it just ignites. Like today, come on, I'm sure the conversations you've been having since last night and today, it just ignites. And people that you don't have to sell, because you both have aligned objectives and your aligned purpose. So immediately you want to collaborate. So the suppliers, like, we opened our doors, we happen to have a listed building, so the sign on the outdoors says bar and grocer. So I just put all of the groceries under the grocery sign, and people just started stopping and walking in the door and saying, oh, wow, the coffee smells really good. Are you selling the produce outside? And then you go into the story about the supplier and the farmer. And then, of course, other suppliers were on their way back from farmers markets in different jurisdictions, and they just stopped by and said, oh, well, can we give you some of our goods? And if you just position them behind and just talk about them, and maybe they might sell. And so we've got 4 in 2 days at the moment. So, and I know that after last night, because we opened our doors for the first time as a pub that serves alcohol, because we have a contract with an award-winning caterer, Anya, Jer, Tom, and Jacinta last night. Thank you so much. That you just proved that food and people are community. Just proved it, because they're 500 meters down the road from us. They parked up their mobile, amazing food truck, and we just served food in here for, we had 80 of our community. I could talk about this for a day. But contact me online. I'd love to connect with anybody who has a shared vision for this.
And it will be okay if I drop your LinkedIn into the group chat also, if somebody wants to fire you off.
Absolutely, please do. I haven't been so active on LinkedIn this week because I have been alive on Instagram, so I'll give you the Instagram too, and I've got to balance my work both.
And then our last quick question from Kevin: how applicable is the IBM Food Trust platform in meeting the needs of the SME food sector where you are operating?
Let me just read that again. So a quick question: how applicable is the IBM Food Trust platform in meeting the needs of the SMEs? Okay, so I guess I don't really work a lot or at all with any multinationals, because they're just not on our radar. We've only been working with owner founders and local producers founders. So I'm really not aware of it. I'm sure there's other people in the group here who would have a better understanding, but our objective and our ethos is always working with founder operators.
Cool, perfect. I'll drop your Instagram and LinkedIn into the group chat, so if anybody has more questions, they can send them along to you, and read more also about what you're doing and what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in and sharing all of your great knowledge with us. And like I said, I've been watching, I creepily watch their chats, so it's lining up very, very well.
Fantastic.
So now from the business side of things and the sort of hands-on side of things, we're going to go over to a bit more of the tech. Juarez is going to present to us on Azure, and where is it? There it is.
Here I am. Good morning, everyone.
He's gonna
In
bring up
fact,
his slides that are
Kathleen,
not working.
let me try to share my screen here. I hope it
We
works.
have backups galore.
Okay. Can you see it? Let me minimize this.
We can see it.
At last. Okay.
Success.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, for the opportunity to speak about something that I'm passionate about, blockchain. My name is Juarez Jr., and I work as an Azure Developer Relations Lead in Microsoft Ireland. Here you can see my email address, my Twitter and media handles, as well as my LinkedIn profile. So feel free to reach out to me in case you want to discuss anything related to Microsoft, Azure, and blockchain. Okay, just to talk a little bit about my background, I have 24, actually I should have updated that, 24 years of experience in IT, out of that 8 years in developer relations, primarily focusing on all things cloud, but also Java, and lately blockchain. I started to work with blockchain back in 2016 when IBM started the Hyperledger project, and they contributed the code to the Hyperledger Foundation. I was an IBM employee. Then I moved to Oracle EMEA, where I was leading the blockchain initiative with all the 8 digital hubs. We executed more than 80 POCs at that time, and now they have something around 30 production systems running blockchain solutions with Hyperledger. And now I'm working for Microsoft, and that's why I'm here today. I want to talk about Azure blockchain. We have more than Hyperledger. We also support Corda, we support Ethereum, we support Quorum, and so on. There are many choices. Here again, you can see my Twitter handle, so feel free to connect with me, and I'm more than happy to discuss anything related to my talk here today. Okay, let's talk a little bit about digital transformation, because it's quite important at the moment, and with the acceleration towards this digital world that happened due to COVID and the latest changes, for example, it's critical for companies, not in terms of only innovation, but also survival, to, I would say, address the needs in terms of optimizing business processes, use cases, and functionalities for solutions and applications. And so you can see the numbers here. And blockchain is a key technology when you consider the so-called emerging technologies or exponential technologies. We have blockchain, IoT, and AI as the trinity in emerging technologies, the 3 main pillars. And the intersection, when you consider those technologies and the synergy, actually it gives us the opportunity to innovate and transform the entire business verticals, market niches, and industries, because there are ways, as you can see here, for example, to expedite business processes and leverage all the characteristics offered by blockchain. For example, the collective ownership of data, more security, transparency in terms of ownership of assets and control of your assets as well. Traceability, of course, due to the immutability of data, because blockchain, the data is immutable, and it adds, I would say, an additional layer of security as well. So why blockchain is valuable? Because, as I said, blockchain provides what we can call a shared ledger. So all the transactions in a given business network, they are seen by all the participants. So you don't have, first, what we can call in software or in solution architectures, a single point of failure. Because let's say I have a blockchain network with 100 nodes, for example, and 40 nodes, they go down. It's still possible to process the transactions. Why? Because the ledger is shared. The database is shared. At the end of the day, blockchain, we can consider it a kind of data store or a database. It's a different one, of course, because with traditional databases like relational or NoSQL ones, you can, for example, run a SQL update and modify a given data record. And remember, in blockchain, we have immutability, but you can compute a new block, have new transactions, and then append that to a chain of blocks. That's why we have blockchain, of course. And with that, we can promote, as I said, the full traceability. So anything that you can think about in terms of assets, a car, a container, food, anything can be tracked with blockchain. So it's really interesting because you can then remove intermediaries. For example, you can optimize the business processes, and you can, at the end of the day, differentiate, and also it is, I would say, a cost-saving approach to your business processes. Okay. There's one thing also, it promotes the shared source of truth. It's what we call the consensus algorithms. There are a number of different consensus algorithms depending on your blockchain network and the approach they follow. We can say that we have normally the permissionless networks, or the public ones, let's put it that way, like Ethereum and Bitcoin, for example. But we also have the permissioned networks, and they are more aligned with enterprises because, you know, with the public or permissionless networks, it's possible to see your transactions, but normally the businesses, they want to protect, I would say, the information about the transactions and the business itself, because it's the way that they can protect their whole play, you know. Blockchain then, as I said, it's interesting because when you think about all the business verticals like manufacturing, retail, insurance, and so on, or supply chain management, logistics, and food provenance, of course, and you inspect and you analyze the business processes, there are ways that you can identify use cases where it makes sense to add more security, traceability, as I said, decentralize the data. So you have, I would say, more, I would say, visibility. The data, the ownership is collective, as I explained as well. And you can see here several examples of use cases and business scenarios where you can apply blockchain. Okay, just one quick use case here related to food provenance. Actually, it's a project with Starbucks and Microsoft. We use it Azure blockchain along with Azure IoT, the Azure IoT services. The challenge, of course, was to track the coffee beans from the farm to the table, okay, and use then the immutability and give the different participants in that business network, the blockchain network, the farmers, the Starbucks stores, and the business, as well as the customers, more visibility. And there are several different ways that you can promote that. So you can see here a flow, for example, considering the different players, for example, the carrier, the manufacturer, the customer, and so on. And you can see here the beans are being tracked as an asset, you know, and then you can provide different views to your network participants, you know. So for example, the customer, you can, I would say, certify that you are actually consuming something that's genuine, so you can avoid counterfeiting, for example, and all the problems that blockchain can support you in terms of transparency, visibility, and also, as I said, you know, as you have a single database, for example, there is no need to actually have, for example, siloed systems, you know, because normally you have company A and company B, but they have different systems. So when they try to, I would say, enroll in a given transaction, for example, and there's a network failure, for example, normally you need things like compensating transactions and things like that to make sure that the data was actually committed and recorded or rolled back, you know. But with blockchain, as I explained, all the participants that you can see here, they have a copy of that ledger, you know. So in case there's a failure, there's no dependency on external systems or remote systems, because you can just inspect your local copy of your ledger, because the network promotes the consensus. So given that a transaction is confirmed and actually committed, you know, the finality of that transaction will guarantee that all the participants, they see the same data. Let's talk a little bit about blockchain on Azure here. We have all the bits that you need to develop a blockchain solution, not only the blockchain frameworks and the services and the main protocols like Hyperledger, Corda, or Ethereum, or Quorum, for example, but also the services that you need to actually ingest the data. Because blockchain, at the end of the day, as I said, it's just a kind of data store or database. We can call it a middleware component in computing, you know, but it's useless without data, you know. So depending on your approach, if that's permissionless or permissioned. You know, there are some components called oracles. They are somehow integration gateways that you can use, for example, to ingest data and have that to be processed by a blockchain smart contract on Ethereum, for example. But Microsoft, we do have many different services that can support that. The first one that I would like to talk about is the Workbench, because when you provision the Workbench, you are provisioning the Azure Blockchain Service, you know, and the Azure Blockchain Service is what we call a BaaS, Blockchain as a Service, because it's a managed solution. So you don't need to be worried about provisioning nodes, all the complications concerning infrastructure, for example, control Docker containers, Kubernetes, IP addresses, ports, certificates, key stores, all those things. You can abstract that. You are at a higher level, so you can, I would say, we can remove this complexity and give you a service that you can just go develop your smart contract, deploy it to your blockchain network, and then develop the client applications, you know, the mobile application, iOS, Android, web applications, and so on. The Workbench is important, as I said, because the Workbench will provide you several out-of-the-box adapters that you can use and leverage in case, in order to, I would say, ingest data from disparate data sources. You know, that can be a mainframe server, LDAP server, a database server, whatever, files, you know. So you can, when you provision the Workbench, we provision the Azure Blockchain Service, but we also have IoT Hub, for example, so you can ingest data from IoT devices. For example, we have the Message Hub, we have Azure Active Directory for your security repository, and so on. And the last bit here I would like to talk about is the Blockchain Developer Kit. The Developer Kit actually is composed by two things. We have an extension for VS Code. VS Code is somehow at the moment the de facto IDE, integrated development environment, the tool that developers use to code, to program, to develop code, okay? And the Developer Kit gives you a VS Code extension, so you don't need to work with several complicated command line tools, for example, with a number of arguments in order to start to deploy your smart contract, to develop your smart contract, I would say to update your smart contract, you know, to perform your tests, everything. And the Blockchain Developer Kit also has several different code samples that you can reuse. Okay, so at the end of the day, the purpose with Microsoft is to give you all the flexibility to use any protocol, as I said, that can be Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, Corda, and so on. And then we want to address all the blocks that you can see here in terms of this IT governance and the infrastructure, you know, so you can just focus on writing your business logic for your solution, and then work to augment an existing application. For example, let's say in case you have a PHP or Ruby application, you can use a REST API, and then I would say extend the application to, I would say, use blockchain to improve a given business use case or business process, as I said. And Azure, I can say it's one of the best options concerning the cloud for blockchain solutions and projects, you know, because we give you choice, we give you all the bits, as I said, not only the deployment environment, you know, and the protocol like Hyperledger or Ethereum, but we also give you the integration points, and the integration services. We give you the development tools with VS Code, the extension, and the Developer Kit. Okay, we have a number of partners and customers who are now running blockchain solutions, and the partners we can work with you in case you want to move your ideas and your MVPs or the POCs to, I would say, become a real startup. You know, there are several ways that we can enable that. Let's talk a little bit about the resources. We prepared several resources I posted on Discord, you know. First, we have Azure Heroes. It's a kind of badge that we have, blockchain-based badge, to identify distinguished members in our community. We have here the links to Azure Blockchain Service and the Dev Kit, as well as VS Code. Quorum on Azure. I have a blog, and there are several blog posts there where I explain everything related to how to deploy a Hyperledger network or a Quorum network and so on. So I'm going to share the deck with you after the presentation today. And at last but not least, I would like to talk about the amazing Microsofties that we have participating in our event today here. So Kelvin presented yesterday Microsoft for Startups, which at the moment has a focus on scale ups, growth startups that are at the growth stage. But feel free to reach out to Kevin. He's on Discord as well in case you want, or you can let me know about any doubts that you have concerning the Microsoft for Startups programs. And we have the cloud solution architects here, Cedric and Nishan. Cedric is acquainted with a lot of things related to blockchain. He's one of the few guys that I know that has a degree in blockchain, and experience with Ethereum, Hyperledger, and all the protocols that I talked about. And Ishan, is skilled in all things Azure, from cloud native to security to artificial intelligence and a little bit of blockchain as well. And we are more than glad to support you in case you have doubts, okay? But that's it. And one last ask here, I would like to invite you to scan this QR code or access this ACA MS link, because we prepared several technical resources for you. And there's an opportunity also to subscribe to our developer newsletter, so we can engage you into our developer journey, so you can get to know about all the events that we are sponsoring and participating, like this hackathon this weekend here. And also we have the Twitter handle MS Dev Ireland, where you can get to know about the good technical content, but also all the events. We have several free training sessions, for example. They are online now. So we have, for example, Azure Fundamentals, where you can participate, and Microsoft will give you a free voucher, $100, so you can go and sit for the certification exam. This is just one example, but we have, I would say, dozens of different free training sessions and opportunities, workshops, hackathons, and so on. But that's it. Thanks a lot again for your time and your attention today. And let me hand it over back to you, Kathleen.
Thanks,
Thank you
Roy.
so
Worth
much.
the wait. That was wonderful. Thank you. And I'll drop those slides also into the Discord, and I will put this video of Sorcha and Juarez's talk up onto YouTube as fast as it can load. So you're ready? You're inspired? You have tech stuff now? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, no, just one thing I forgot. I would like to invite Ishan and Cedric to say hi as well, so you can get to know the guys.
That was my next point. Are you in you're in my notebook, Juarez, of things I have to talk about next. So now that you're inspired, we have Cedric and there's Ishan, he's here.
Ishan is here too. Good morning, everyone.
Talk a little bit. They are our Microsoft Brilliant team, and if you have questions for them also throughout the day, you can ping them at Microsoft Tech Team Mentor, I believe, and they'll all come running.
Thank you very much, Kathleen.
Exactly.
So I have Cedric.
So maybe a brief introduction from my side. I think Juarez already did an amazing job of introducing me. I'm a cloud solutions architect at Microsoft and an advanced cloud expert for serverless. So do feel free to hit me up on Discord with any questions related to the Azure blockchain services and anything related to that, or any other blockchain service in any way possible. If you want to run it on Azure, that's I think I'm your guy for this weekend. So feel free to ping me with any questions, and happy to spar on various concepts in cloud native or just generally how to run blockchain on Azure.
Wonderful.
And hi, this is Ishan, and I have not so much experience with blockchains, but I have been working with things like AI and Azure in general. So that's what my forte is. So if you have anything, please ping me on Azure, on Discord, either at BitHunter or or the tech group.
Just emphasize, in case you need to deploy a web application or something to show your MVP, Ishan is the person that you should talk with. Okay.
Perfect.
And we do have like a 30-day free trial for Azure, which you get $200 credit. You can utilize and so on. So please do sign up. And if you need any help, just ping me or Cedric.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. That's wonderful. So now that everybody's inspired, we have a ton of resources. We're ready to go. So start nailing down your solution that you're going to present. We'll work until about 1:30. We have a Q&A with Laurie Keogh, and then a talk with Fiona Daly later today. And you're off. Jump back into your team groups, start finding those solutions, and we look forward to seeing what you guys come up with throughout the rest of the day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.